Hey, college wrestling fans, it's JT1Wrestle here, and we have got a great guest today's show. Please welcome Jared Groeneveld of Alma.
Awesome. Appreciate you having me on.
Now, Coach, one of the first things I want to talk to you about is the highlight of Scott wrestling last season was freshman Caden Bell. He made the regional finals and became an NCAA Division III qualifier. He is only a freshman, and he has a potential to be one of the greatest wrestlers in Scott wrestling history. Talk about him and the success that he had this last season.
Yeah, Caden's an awesome guy. We were really excited to land him as a recruit. He's actually a dual sport athlete for us, so he plays football as well. He's a running back. Um,
Wow. Wow.
yeah, so this past summer he actually had shoulder surgery, so he didn't play football. He just did the walkthroughs and everything like that. And then once he was rehabbed from his shoulder, we got him on the mat. So he didn't really start wrestling until end of December into January when we got him on the mat. We knew he was really talented. We didn't know quite how it would transition to college and how he would do at heavyweight, because when we were recruiting him, we talked about 197, we talked about heavyweight just to kind of see. And he ended up coming in and setting about 225 and wanted to wrestle heavyweight. So that's where he wrestled. And really, he's only wrestled 3 years in high school. So he was hurt his freshman year in high school and then wrestled sophomore, junior, and senior year. So still a very young wrestler, but he has some very unorthodox but great technique. I'm sure you've seen kind of that foot sweep that he hits and stuff
Yeah.
like that. And so, yeah, we're kind of under the discussion right now of if he stays at heavyweight and tries to put on a little more mass, or if he's going to drop to 97. And I mean, at the end of the year, I think he weighed in at nationals with all his clothes on and still weighed about 220. So, but I also know being a running back, they might want him a little bit leaner. So we'll see what happens. We'll work with him.
Yeah, so that leads me to another question, real quick. Do you guys communicate with the football team? Kind of like what you expect, what they expect? What is your relationship like with the football coach?
Yeah, we have a real good relationship with all the football coaches. Coach Couch, he's done a great job. I mean, Eddie Williams was a three-time All-Region wrestler for us. He was also a finalist for the Gagliardi Trophy last year. He was a running back as well. So good relationship with them. Of when it's football season, it's football season. When it's wrestling season, it's wrestling season. So I'm good friends with a couple of the football coaches as well, and it's just kind of that communication piece. And when we're looking at a dual sport guy, that it's different than high school where you get a little break between seasons. But I mean, football, they're here in August and hopefully, like the past couple of years, making a couple rounds of playoffs. So you're in football until middle end of November. And make sure guys get that break, and then we'll get them on the mat in December. And if they're good to go, power wrestle the end of December. If not, we'll get them on the mat in January.
Well, and you talked about not quite knowing yet whether he wants to go or, a lot of decisions here to be made between himself, you, and the football coach between 197 and heavyweight. Do you I mean, I have my opinions, of course, as a wrestling fan and watching him compete. Do you feel he's more the kind of guy that's going to like kind of going after being more the quicker, faster kind of wrestler? Or do you think he wants to get bigger and stronger, kind of go more that style?
I think for him, it's just figuring out where he's going to be the most confident. And so that's kind of our discussion with him of, hey, do you feel confident going down and wrestling guys that are going to be a little bit quicker? And some of your technique may translate better to 197 pounders. I mean, being able to have a little more speed and actually hitting some of those slide bys and chuck bys and having the guy react a little bit easier, not trying to do that to a 275-pound, 6'3" guy. We know he can do it, but is that going to translate better than 97? Or do we try to get to that 235 range somewhere in there? The biggest thing is his height. He's only about 5'10". So that's kind of the limiting factor. I mean, one of the guys on our wall here, Trevor Marish, he was a two-time All-American for us at heavyweight. He wrestled 197 his first 2 years. I think the heaviest he ever weighed was about 222, but he was 6'2". So he had the length and reach to do it, but he was a monster on top with his wingspan. So and you look at heavyweights and stuff, your typical heavyweight now is going to be in that 235 to 265 range. I mean, you have your outliers of the 270, 280 guys, but even in D1, they're not necessarily on the upper end. It's the guys that are athletic and can move and can wrestle.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, you had two others on your team last year that had some success. You had Dominic Gimber, also a fellow freshman who was sixth at the regionals, and Luke Martin, who will be a senior this season, who took eighth. Talk about them and the expectations you have for them next season.
Yeah, so Dom Gumtow, we knew he was very talented coming in. So he never won a state title, but he was a multi-time placer, a couple-time finalist, and he actually another guy we kind of eased into season. So he had a ankle injury end of the his high school season, so he had that repaired, and so we got him on the mat and didn't wrestle him until end of December. We knew we wanted him fresh for the end of the year, and he had a great season for us. He was a undefeated conference champion for us, and he bonused 3 out of the 4 guys and had a tough match with another guy who he ended up pinning at the regional tournament. So he had a great year for us. Had a tough loss in the regional semis to last year's national runner up. I mean, he went out, got the first takedown, ended up losing 6-3 in a good match. But I mean, he has still a ton of upside in his wrestling that we can improve on things. And for him, it's just building that confidence, getting a little bit stronger. I mean, he's up wrestling 141 where he was a 26, 32 pounder in high school. So putting on a little bit of weight and adjusting to that, but his technique and strength is there. So we have no doubt he'll continue to get better. And it's been great to see his progress and him buying into everything we're talking about. And it was a good season for him, and he knows what he wants to accomplish and is working really hard to get there. And Luke Martin's a great story for us. So we recruited him hard out of high school, just a great kid. He ended up going to school, wasn't going to wrestle. He was on their club team, and we kept talking with him. And finally, he's like, I'm going to emailed me and said, hey, I'm coming to wrestle. I was like, awesome. So he's made a ton of strides, and he had a few hiccups this year. Just he got sick for a week. He was in bed for about a week straight with the
Oh,
flu in mid-January. So didn't have him in a couple duels. The couple duels he did wrestle in, he wasn't 100%. And he definitely showed out at the regional tournament. And his big goal this year, and the thing I kept talking with him about was, hey, you need to be a Scholar All-American. That's your goal this year. Place at the regional tournament, be a Scholar All-American. So at the regional tournament, he drew a tough 4 seed first round and didn't go his way. And he was kind of feeling a little bit down. And I'd tell him to his face, he was feeling a little down. And I said, hey, do you want to be a Scholar All-American? He said, yeah. I said, all right, you got a place. You got to dig deep. You got to find it. Let's go place. And he wrestled out of his mind. He ended up majoring his next guy that he got texted by earlier in the year. And then he went out and beat a really good guy from Chicago, was down in the match to start, and just kept said, hey, just keep putting your hands on him. Put your hands on him and good things are going to happen. And he did that and was on his way to teching the guy and ended up pinning him. So it was a real good regional tournament for him. And this year having a very young team. So I graduate 2 guys that are not in our lineup. I have 3 juniors, everybody else is freshmen, sophomores. So talking with our guys, this year was about, hey, every time we wrestle, every tournament, every competition is just an opportunity to show how much we've gotten better, how we've improved, and breaking down matches of, because you look at freshmen, even going into high school, it's kind of that reset of, hey, we're not going to win every match. And if your criteria for building confidence is winning matches, we got to figure it out, because when you're on that 6-7 match losing streak, you're not going to have confidence that way. So what are we looking at in the matches? What have we improved on in these? Is it, hey, last time we got tech by this guy, now we got majored. Next time we get decision. Next time we're in that match right at the end to win it. Other times it's, hey, what technique are you hitting in these matches that you're improving on and we can build on? And so is there kind of a great building learning year for us of just focusing on what we need to get better at and making sure that we are continually improving. And we showed that at the regional tournament. I mean, showed it with Caden beating the guy he lost to in the duel. Dom going out and wrestling some really tough matches. Luke majoring a guy he got teched by, and 4 other guys that lost in the round of place at regional. So it was a really good tournament and showing for us, which was exciting to see.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Now, along with yourself, and man, I do not want to butcher this name, but you have a really great staff along with you. I'm gonna take a shot at this. Jace Kewen line,
Keyline.
Keyline, Key
Yeah,
line.
I know we got a bunch of goofy
Yeah,
names over
yeah,
here. So,
that's all right. You got Fletcher Roberts,
yep.
and you also got Jeremiah Tobias on your team as well. Now, me being a guy that's been around college wrestling for over 25 years, probably over 30 years now, Tobias is probably one of the most unique stories in wrestling. When I first started getting into college wrestling media, he was talked about by a lot of the media legends, including Jason Bryant, Alan Stovepipe Brown, as probably the best backup in collegiate wrestling in his time at the University of Michigan. Um, we're talking about a guy that if he had gone to another school, probably would have been an All-American himself. Talk about Keyline and Roberts and Tobias and what they mean to your program and how they help you out as head coach.
Yeah, I mean, those guys mean everything to me. It's awesome to have a great staff that complements everyone all the way around. So I joke around. I get to be the guy that handles the administrative stuff and runs a practice and does all that fun stuff. And talking about Jeremiah, I mean, he's pretty much the reason I came here to Alma to wrestle. And when they restarted their program, and we had the great head coach then, and Jeremiah was announced as the assistant, and I was like, man, that's it's kind of the guy I want to go wrestle for, because knowing Michigan wrestling history and stuff like that, and Jeremiah being just kind of fresh out of college relatively at that time, there's a lot of people that said, hey, this is the dude. And with Jeremiah, it's the one thing that you can talk about is loyalty. I mean, you look at the transfer portal nowadays, and even back then, a guy like that, 9 times out of 10, they're hopping in the portal. But Jeremiah's like, hey, I made the commitment to go and wrestle there, and that's where I was going to wrestle. It didn't matter. I was going to try to be in the lineup, and if I was going to get in the lineup, awesome. And so, I mean, being the quote unquote backup, he still holds career and season pin records there. The dude's an animal, and even in the room, he's our technique guy, and his ability to see a technique, adapt it to a certain guy's style, show it, hit it, is truly amazing. I mean, he helped me a ton in my wrestling in my college career, and it's been awesome to see. And I mean, you look at some of the guys he beat. He beat All Americans his
Yeah.
senior year. I think I can look it back up, but I believe out at Cliff Keen the one year he pinned a 3-time D3 national champ. I mean, he's awesome, and so it's great to have him on staff. And when we were talking about him being my assistant, he said, "What do you need me to do?" I said, "I want you to do what you're good at. I want you to coach wrestling. I want you to love your job as an assistant and coach wrestling and do what you're good at." And it's awesome to have that. Coach Roberts is, and I don't say it lightly. He's a top 20 strength coach in the country. Doesn't matter division right now. He's been doing this since. I mean, he wrestled D2 at UNC Pembroke. He was a personal trainer down there. He trained under some great strength coaches of Jared Olson, and so J Rod, and Charles Poliquin. He went to all of his seminars, so he's a big Poliquin guy. And so when you're looking at his credentials as a strength coach, they're unmatched. And just his knowledge of strength training, nutrition, he has it dialed in, and that's one of our big strengths right there. And it's awesome for me that I don't have to worry about that part of it either. Of, hey, their strength training, their nutrition, their conditioning is all taken care of, and he's got that dialed in, which is awesome. And we also joke around. We have different wrestling styles. So I'm going to put you in the phone booth. We're going to be in the phone booth. We're going to hand fight. We're going to battle it out, and you're going to know you wrestled somebody. That's my style. Jeremiah's more of the technical, slick stuff, great technique with it. And then we joke that Fletcher, from being from North Carolina, he's got the East Coast funk and flash. So easy money. So slide bys, headlocks, inside trips, all of the fun, flashy stuff that is great to have in your back pocket. And then Jace Keyline, so he was my full-time assistant coach 2 years ago. He finished his CPA accounting exams, got a nice remote job, so he's our part-time coach. He's usually here in the office between 3 and 4 days a week during the year, and he's a middleweight guy. He was a couple-time conference champ for us, 3-time Scholar All-American, and he gets to wrestle with the guys. He's a great wrestler as well, so awesome to have him in the room. And having those complementary styles is a huge blessing to me that covers all of our bases and what our guys need to grow and get better as wrestlers and human beings.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really awesome. You talked about how y'all have different styles and different mentalities and stuff, and I think that can be something that can be very attractive to a wrestler. I know sometimes you talk with different coaches and different programs, it's everybody, they have like a everybody's this way and everybody does things that way, and I think it's very attractive, at least it would be for me if I were a young man looking at going to college, that you have a school where, you know, you might be the kind of guy that's a straightforward, go after him the whole time. Some people are more defensive. Some people are more, like you said, they like to throw those headlocks and throw bys and shucks and stuff like that. So I think that's really, really cool. Now, another thing I wanted to ask you about is you yourself were an NCAA Division III qualifier. You were also a three-time academic All-American. You got it done on both the mat and in the classroom. As a coach, how do you help your athletes to succeed not only on the mat but also in the classroom?
Yeah, it's really what it comes down to. If you want to have success, is you have to balance everything and have everything aligned. And we know, especially here at Division III, when you graduate, wrestling is not going to pay the bills. Yes, we want to be the best wrestler. We want to be All Americans, national champs, scholar All Americans, conference champs. But getting that degree, so my like I said, I want to win. I'm very competitive. But at the end of the day, I want guys to come back in 10 to 15 years to our alumni events saying, hey, I loved my experience. I love the program. Wrestling taught me a ton of things, but more importantly, I love my career. I love what I do every single day. And that's what we do here at Alma is we set up guys and women now with our women's program for success in whatever career field they want. We have a great track record of graduating people within 4 years, getting internships, job placements, and helping them get to where they want to be in life at the end of the day. But that boils down to making sure everything is aligned. So like when we talk about your day, hey, we're helping guys plan their day because the biggest transition high school to college academically is time management. High school, you have first bell, last bell, practice, homework, rinse and repeat. College, you got one, two, maybe three classes in a day. I think, man, I got one class. I got a lot of free time. No, you don't. That's your study day. That's when we're filling everything in. So we're putting in their calendar of sleep, eating, professor office hours, tutors, math center, writing center, um, when they're getting on the mat, getting in the weight room, practice, classes, everything goes in there, putting that study break in there because the more structured you can be, the more you can focus on the task at hand when you're doing it. So when guys get to the wrestling room, they're not worried about a project or anything like that, or even cutting weight because they've managed it well enough outside of practice. Practice time is time to get better. We're in there to wrestle, focus on getting better at wrestling, plus throwing in some one-on-one individual workouts and film study outside of that, and making sure that we are handling everything we need to outside of that to make sure that we can focus on what we're doing at that moment.
And I was studying up on Alma. There's a very unique 441 academic calendar, and me reading up on that and studying that seems extremely appealing to me. And I'm sure it would be to a lot of other athletes looking to wrestle in college. Explain to us exactly what that is and how that works.
Yeah, so we have your typical 2 semesters. So fall semester, winter. We call it our winter semester because we run it from January until mid-April, and then we have our spring term or May term that we call it that just started this week. And so it's a month-long term where you have one class every single day. The advantage of having that in the spring for us as a winter sport, it's not a December term or a January term, it's a May term. So you have to take 2 of them while you're here, but we have like Venture Grant, P Global that'll help guys do pay for some of that, especially if they want to do a travel one. Traveling is huge for us, getting that experience. So we do a ton of different travel spring terms. So guys can people have gone to Hawaii for scuba diving. They've done one across the state of Michigan. One of our English professors runs a fly fishing course. So they're up in northern Michigan, part of it fly fishing the Ausable River and stuff like that. Others have gone across the US for a healthcare one of going to different hospitals and healthcare facilities for whether it's the nursing major or the healthcare administrative part of it, seeing how things are run. So it's a really great experience for people to get hands-on learning and a kind of a faster paced environment. And also spring term's a lot of fun because yes, it's very serious, but also you're with the same professor and the same people every day, and you're building a better relationship with them. And it is a lot of fun, and it's kind of a relaxed but still very rigorous course for a month.
That does sound very appealing. I can see why kids would choose Alma College just for that experience alone. That seems pretty cool. Now, Coach, the last question I'm going to ask you about today, non wrestling related. You're talking to a fellow history major, so I'm just kind of curious. You being a history major as well, what are some of your favorite areas of expertise, and do you have a favorite historical fact about the sport of wrestling itself?
So I have kind of two different ones. One is just being my age. I mean, I'm 33 years old, but growing up, History Channel is huge. The channel play most of the time is World War II history, so inundated with that. So that's always kind of the go to of every time you turn it on. Here's what it is, whether it's truly right or wrong, and being on the History Channel, but it's good information and stuff. So part of that, but I'm a huge outdoorsman, so I love to hunt and fish and everything like that. So I love the Mountain Man era with Jim Bridger, all those guys, Hugh Glass, just seeing what they did going through that. And like you look at all the modern equipment we have now of if guys are doing beaver trapping or anything like that, and you got your waders and you got your gloves and everything, and you look back at those guys and they had wool pants and leather and they're soaked to the bone, and like, man, I'm freezing cold doing this. How did those guys survive in the mountains doing this for months on end? So just watching those guys, looking at what they did and how they did it is just awesome to me. And there's still some unknowns of like kind of what the guys did and how they preserved the deer hides, and with the Daniel Boone era moving west, and we think of moving west into like the out west, but really the frontier was the Virginias, the West Virginias into Arkansas and everything there. And that those eras really truly kind of like long to know more about them, and it's hard to know more because a lot of that is lost. And but it's great to see some of the stuff coming back out. I mean, I watch YouTube a lot, so like I watched Clay Hayes and all those the survival guys, and just building all the stuff on their own is my wife gets really annoyed with it because that's what I sit down when I sit down and watch. And but she handles it well. So
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Now, do you have a favorite historical fact about wrestling?
I guess just digging through some of the archives here at Alma, when you look back at the history of wrestling, yeah, we started a program in the 60s, but you're looking through some of our history stuff, and we had a wrestling team. I think it was like 1903 or something. We had a wrestling team here. So finding some of those old pictures and what wrestling looked like then to what it is now is crazy to think about some of the old hour-long matches that they used to have. And we go back to the old like Okie State, Iowa, the giant mats and stuff like that. So just watching wrestling evolve, and it's great to see that as a sport. But knowing that we had some form of wrestling in the early 1900s here is really cool for us here, and that's kind of my wrestling history fact. And but it's pretty cool.
That is awesome to learn about that. I always have a lot of fun doing that. You come across that stuff and like, I mean, they used to have college wrestling used to happen almost in what I guess you could compare to a professional wrestling ring back in those
Mhm.
days. They had ropes and everything, so it was kind of neat that way. Well, Coach, I really enjoyed having you on today. It's been a pleasure and an honor, and really hope to see you guys have some more NCAA Division III qualifiers next year. I'm hoping we see Bell get on that award stand. Come March. This year's championships, my memory's not great. I believe lacrosse is where we're
I
heading
believe
this
it's back
year.
in lacrosse. Yeah.
Yep, I believe so.
So it's lacrosse is one of my favorite venues. I mean, for us, I mean, it's still a 10, 12 hour drive, which isn't great, but um, lacrosse is a great venue. Have you been there?
Yeah,
Okay.
my girlfriend and I went there this past year was Cedar Rapids. Was it the year before or the year before that? It was in.
So last year it was in Rhode Island. I think the year before that it would have been in lacrosse.
Yeah,
So we
yeah,
were
we went
there.
there. Yep.
We were there in 17 with one of our qualifiers, and So yeah, it's a great venue. It's pretty cool, and La Crosse is a cool city. So
It
I
is.
mean, I'm still partial to being in Iowa. It was a great experience being down in Iowa this year. When I qualified, it was over in Hershey, Pennsylvania. So it's fun that it rotates around, and we've talked about possibly putting in stuff to host it here in Michigan, but got to find the right venue for it and the right teams that'll come together to do it. So
Absolutely. Well, again, I hope to have a lot of success next year in 2026, 2027. JT1 Wrestle, you have a great day.
thanks, you too. Appreciate it.
You bet.